I want to take y'all back where it all started.
Let me tell you about my city, a little town where I'm from, where everybody's southern raised, just as good as they come. Backwoods and Mossy-Oak and mud holes, and back then we only gave what the farm grow. Man, I miss some days how we played on them dirt roads, and out of towners came with respect, cause they know we all close. Yeah, Southern pride, toting gun folks. Welcome to my city, I-75 South, just north of Live Oak.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, really ride this is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, title town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
It's nothing like our dirt roads, you can bet that, son. I'm from a city, by any means, we gon' protect our guns. I hang with the rednecks and geekies. We get up in big trucks in the backwoods like Indians and teepees. This the home of the mighty, mighty Vikings. Wildcats, blazing, title town license. Winners, pretty girls with country grammar. When I say about Austin, Georgia, I ain't talking about Atlanta. This a different type of city, where the woods are pretty, but get gritty, you hear me? What you know about that 229? You can find us on the Florida, Georgia line, where I reside.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, when we ride this is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, title town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey. Moonshine and whiskey.
Some folks really don't understand how important it is and never forget where you came from. You know, when I say Lowndes County, man, I mean Lowndes County.
I'm from a city called Austin, Georgia, right on the border of Florida. I was raised on these dirt roads, mud tires, spin backwoods, when we ride this is small town living, yeah. Now welcome to my city, title town, 229, turn it up so they can hear it loud. We get it up with big trucks and heavy G's, pretty girls with moonshine and whiskey.
What's up, Titletown and all across the fruited plain? Welcome to the nation. When I say the nation, you guys know what I mean. It's welcome to One Lowndes, One Nation. We are the Viking Nation. If you are new to the program, welcome aboard. What you're going to find here is that we're all very passionate about our high school football around here with just a little touch of crazy, especially around election season. Everybody, I think, has lost their mind. And forgotten how to be civil, and sometimes me included. So if that appeals to you, we are the show for you. So welcome to the nation. Superfans going to be joining us a little bit late tonight. Listen, I don't blame them. They got professional lives to run, maintain, got to pay the bills because Uncle Sam ain't very forgiving. So we got to do what we got to do. So speaking of superfans, Chase Garnto is going to be joining us a little bit later tonight. The Professor Armand Rashad will be joining us a little bit later on. You know, he's got a new gig as well. So working a little bit later nowadays, but hey, that's okay. He's bringing in the greenbacks, and that's what it's all about. Region comparison from last week. Don't know what you guys think about how the region is shaping out, but man, oh man, it's coming down to a bit of a doozy here. So far, we've got the boys across town, the Valdosta Wildcats, are in sole first place in the region at 2-0. They're 7-0 overall. Camden County coming into the Palace tomorrow night. They are 1-1 in the region, 6-1 overall. Right there with them is our Mighty Lowndes Vikings, 1-1 in the region, 6-1 overall. Richmond Hill, 1-1, 6-1 overall. Colquitt County 1-1, 4-3 overall. And Tift County rounds us out at 0-2 in the region, playing everybody competitive, hanging with people tough. But they are 2-5 overall as well. So a lot of good games last week, including one up in Tifton with our Vikings and the Blue Devils up there. One of the funniest moments of the night was, they started off the game and we basically traded scores, 7-7. They just scored on a long touchdown pass, and I was talking to someone on the sideline. Not going to name names, but it's kind of funny who it came from. So, I was just complaining about the cannon. It's like, oh my gosh, that cannon is so loud. Even when you expect it, it just makes you jump out of your skin. And they looked at me and he said, that's okay. That's the last time it'll be fired tonight. And doggone it, he was right. He was right until the very end of the game. They had to end that thing and shot off the cannon just to close things out officially. But I was so glad to get out of there. Kind of not a muddy field, but it wasn't the driest field in the world. It's a little bit of mud, especially on the sidelines, and kind of soggy down at the end zones. So it's kind of I guess we're a little bit spoiled. When you're used to artificial turf like we are, and most stadiums in our region are that way now, I think you get a little bit spoiled, right? You're not used to dealing with mud and that kind of stuff. So natural grass like that in late October, it's got to get soggy, but that's okay. Here we are at 1-1 in the region, 6-1 overall. And you know what this is setting up to be? This is setting up to be an epic Wintersville Classic this year on November 1st. Don't you guys agree? It is going to be epic. Meaning that this might be the first one in a long, long time where basically all the marbles are on the table. If Lowndes wins out going into the Wintersville Classic against Valdosta, we'll be what, 4-1? No, 3-1 in the region. And Valdosta will probably be 4-0 in the region, right? And so that lends itself to be a game that could potentially decide the region. How cool would that be? How long has it been? I can't remember how many years it's been since the game between Lowndes and Valdosta, known as the Wintersville Classic, actually decided the region title. How cool would that be? Now, there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of things would have to take place for that to happen, right? Man, I keep getting these text messages. I got another one tonight. Listen, it is almost 7:15 on a Thursday night. Got a text message, thought it was maybe one of our super fans, maybe another Viking fan, or high school football fan somewhere. So I looked down at my phone and it's a political text. I'll be so glad when this election is over. So we can stop getting these voicemails and text messages and mailers every other day, if not every day, bashing this candidate, vote for this one. It's like, oh my gosh, just make it stop. So, but we can see the short rows, or we're in the short rows from here, not very much longer now. But I was saying about the epic Wintersville Classic that is right on the horizon. I hope everyone is ready for that game. It's been a long while. Do y'all remember a few years back when Valdosta had left our classification? They just went to 7A classification, and Valdosta stayed in 6A, and the rest of us went up to 7A. And so Valdosta ended up winning a state championship in 2016, that kind of stuff. But when that happened, I don't know about you, but the Wintersville Classic kind of lost its allure just a little bit. It'd been tarnished a little bit because not as much was on the line. Bragging rights are always there, but because we weren't in the same region, definitely not in the same class, it just felt like that game didn't mean as much. But now when we're all together, especially going into the last game of the regular season and the region title may be on the line, you better believe that is going to be an epic game. I hope the Lowndes administration is prepared with their live streaming deal, which appears to be going to be on Huddle this year instead of other platforms that we've used in the past. So, I know they've been testing that as the season has gone on, and man, the video quality looks outstanding. I hope the bandwidth is going to be there to support what I anticipate. Hold on a second. My chair has rolled over the headphone cord there, so didn't want to damage that. So I hope that the bandwidth has already been tested. That's going to be there to support what I'm anticipating. It's going to be a record crowd, not just in the stadium, but online as well. I remember a couple of years ago when we live streamed that thing, we had 800 people watching it online concurrently. That there was paid customers, by the way, made like $15,000 on just 800 customers. And so this year, I'm expecting potentially both teams could be ranked, maybe even in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5, depending on how things shake out or leading up to that point. So could you imagine both teams in the top 5, that game has the region title on the line? So you better believe that the online demand is going to be there from across the state. So if we can do 800 online viewers a couple of years ago, I would imagine anywhere from 1,200 to 1,500, maybe even more this time around. So I'm hoping that our bandwidth is ready to handle that kind of capacity. I'm assuming that it will be. All right, let's go to, before we get too much farther into the talk here of high school football, let's go to the comment line. Let's see who's checking in. Nathan Lincoln is checking in with us. James Andrews, Tierra Battle, Jason Burnett. I met Jason the other day up in Tifton on the visitor side of Brody Field over there. Jason, it was a pleasure to meet you and your bride. Thank you so much for traveling up to Tift County to watch our Vikings play. Okay, so let's get on with the show. We were talking about the region and how it is shaking out, right? The thing that you have to keep your eye on, I've been spent a few minutes talking about, the Wintersville Classic and the potential that holds. So here's the scenario that could be setting itself up. If Lowndes wins tomorrow night and then ends up beating Richmond Hill the week after that, so we'd had one loss going into the Wintersville Classic, and that was 3 points to Colquitt County. Imagine Valdosta runs the table and meets us undefeated, right? And then Colquitt County goes undefeated the rest of the way with their only loss to Valdosta in a very close ball game. So if we end up beating Valdosta in the Wintersville Classic, that would set up a 3-way tie for the region title between us, Colquitt, and Valdosta. And I'm trying to get this confirmed with the Lowndes Athletic Administration. Talked to Danny Redshaw the other day, and we had, he was going to go back and check on it because it'd been a couple of years. But we have a new region this year. So he couldn't remember if it was the old tiebreaker that they'd all agreed on in years past. And he's going to get back to me on that. But if it's similar, and I'm probably thinking that it is, then it was basically the tiebreaker was points allowed, not points scored. So the only question remaining was that points allowed against just the 3 tied teams? Is it points allowed against region opponents that have a chance at making the playoffs? Is it against all region opponents? So those details matter, right? So anyway, it's going to be very, very interesting. That's why I was hoping for kind of a high-scoring game against Valdosta and Colquitt County, because if it turns out to be points allowed, that was a very low-scoring game against Valdosta and Colquitt. That doesn't bode well for us, right? Because if the tiebreaker is points allowed and they don't allow very many points in the heads-up matchup between those two teams, then that could kind of monkey up the situation, the tiebreaker. So fingers crossed. we're going to see how it all shakes out. We're going to see how it all shakes out. Now, the other thing that we have to start taking a look at are the potential playoff matchups, because we're just a few weeks away from the start of the first round of the playoffs. And I'm assuming that Lowndes is going to make it, right? I'm just assuming that. And so I've told you guys before, a couple different episodes, that Region 1 is going to end up facing off against Region 5 in the first round of the playoffs. And so let me tell you how Region 5 is doing. So North Cobb is starting to separate themselves in Region 5. So they are in first right now, followed by Walton at 3-1. So North Cobb is 3-0. Walton's played one more game. They're at 3-1. Cherokee is at 2-2. Wheeler is at 2-2. North Paulding 1-2. Etowah 1-3. Marietta 1-3. So keep an eye on Wheeler and North Paulding, because North Paulding is even at 1-2. They're still right on that bubble. If they get on a hot streak, they could find themselves in the playoffs as well. So right now, as it stands, if the playoffs were seeded today, and let's assume for a second Lowndes wins the tiebreaker and is number one seed, Lowndes would be facing off against the Wheeler if it were be played today. And so Valdosta, having beaten Colquitt County head-to-head, would be the number 2 seed, and they would be taking on Cherokee. Colquitt County, being the number 3 seed, would be taking on Walton. And presumably, Camden County, by defeating Richmond Hill last week, would be the 4th seed in this scenario that I'm pointing out. I know a lot of football still has to be played. Then they would be taking on North Cobb. So that's how the first round of the state playoffs would shake out today if we had to seed the teams today, and assuming Lowndes won the tiebreaker and beating Valdosta in the Wintersville Classic. I know that's a lot of assumptions, right? But I'm looking at it through crimson-colored glasses here, and I'm hoping for the best. All right, so let's see. Who else is checking in with us? Troy Braswell says, we're all Americans. Amen, Troy. Amen. Listen, no truer words have been said, brother. At the end of the day, doesn't matter which candidate wins, whichever one you support, we're still all Americans, right? So thank you so much for that reminder, Troy. Candace Marie says, I need to meet Jason. Jason says, same here, buddy. I guess he was glad to meet us. But he says he's moving to St. Louis November 1st. Dang, Jason, you're moving to St. Louis on the night of the Wintersville Classic? Doggone, man. What a time to move. Well, fortunately, that game is going to be streamed. I can confidently say that because, everybody knows that Lowndes usually doesn't stream their home games, with the exception of the Wintersville Classic, because we're assuming a sold-out game for that night. Candace says, Jason Burnell sends you a request. Jerry Safford, thanks for checking in with us. He says, if I remember right, it was how many points allowed in all of your opponents in the region. Jerry, that's what I'm trying to I guess, get from the athletic administration, because you may be right, but I don't know. So we got to make sure we have a new region with new teams involved, new head coaches. And so, they may have decided something different. So we'll have to go back. We'll have to just wait and see. Daryl Brett, big Cat fan, says, wishful thinking, LG. Absolutely. Daryl, this is called the Viking Nation Live, not the Wildcat Central Live. So, of course, I'm going to shade things in the way of my Vikings. Makes sense, right? But I want to thank Daryl for checking in. And believe it or not, Daryl was a Viking fan, a devoted Viking fan for like 2 hours. And if you don't know that backstory, then remind me to tell it to you one day, because that's kind of a funny story. So, Daryl, welcome aboard to the Viking Nation Live tonight. All right, so Josh Bass says, Larry, when are you going to talk about the Florida Gators? Josh, why would I talk about the Florida Gators? Why? Do you see the G? I know it's kind of shaded, kind of faded out right now because I got a blurry back screen, but do you see the G? Do you see it over here as a Georgia banner? That right there is a Georgia football. LG, most people think my initials, Larry Godwin. No, it's like Larry, Georgia. So why in the world, Josh, would I talk about the Florida Gators? Just kidding, man. Appreciate your friendship. Okay, so let's talk about the game last week. I don't know how many of you went to the game up in Tift County. He says there's a blue and orange doll above your head. You talking about that? That is not a blue and orange doll. Let me show you. Let me show you what that is. This is one of the things that you get to do on a live show. Check this out. It's not a orange and blue doll. It is a red, blue, and yellow birthday card. See that? From my kids when they were younger. They said I was Superman. So there you go. Now you know the secret of the orange and blue doll that you saw in the background. Okay, so how many of you went to the game up in Tift County last week? Other than that annoying cannon. Oh my gosh. I hate that thing. That is why I purposely created that final score graphic the way that I did last week. I anticipated, I was prepared both ways, but I anticipated a Lowndes win. So when that was in hand, I rolled out the Lowndes basically taking possession of the cannon on the. So that's what that graphic was all about. If you didn't figure that out, Lily, is it Layla or Lily Jackson? I apologize if I mispronounced your name. She says Tifton is coming. So I'm assuming that you're a Blue Devil fan. Listen, I would love to see nothing more than a revive and rejuvenated Tift County Blue Devils. And I think they can get there under their new head coach, Jeff Littleton. I really do. He's an excellent coach, got a fantastic pedigree, knows about winning state championships in a pretty competitive classification. So, yeah, Lily, I have no doubt that Tifton is coming. But you guys got to be patient with Coach Littleton and give him the resources that he needs to win. Really, in my humble opinion, there is one thing that stands in the way of a consistently winning Tift County program, and that is a unified community, a unified football community. And Lily, I don't think you guys have that yet. I think it's coming. And this is where the patience comes in, because sometimes when a new head coach comes, there's so much excitement for that program. Everybody, pledges their devotion to the new head coach, and everybody knows that story. But winning is what sustains that. And when there's not winning early, a lot of fans will go ahead and check out. The casual fans will go ahead and check out, and the hardcore fans will be at each other's throats shortly after that. That's why we kind of jokingly say winning takes care of everything, right? But losing causes. No, let me take that back. I was about to say losing causes so many problems. No, losing reveals so many problems. The problems are already there. Losing just helps to reveal them. And so one of the things that I've seen regarding Tift County over the years is the lack of a unified community. And that is so important when it comes to high school athletics. It really is. The team feeds off of that. The coaching staff feeds off of that. And believe it or not, when you don't have a unified community and it's time to replace assistant coaches because assistant coaches move on to other programs, that's what assistant coaches do. And you're trying to hire some really, really good assistant coaches to replace them. These coaches are not fools. They want to work for a winning program, and they want to be a part of a unified community. And when they don't see that, your best coaches will stay away, unless they're big buddies with the head coach. But like it or not, or believe it or not, I should say, a lot of coaches look at that kind of stuff. So that's the thing that I think that maybe has traditionally stood in the way of a long time sustained winning program at Tiff County and other places as well. That it just hasn't had a unified community, and hopefully it's on the way of doing that under Coach Littleton. So best of luck to the Tiff County Blue Devils League. Nathan Lincoln says, good luck to the Georgia Bridgemen on Saturday in Orr. Is it Orr or Opp? I thought it was Opp, Alabama. But regardless, Nathan says, bring that grand championship home to Lowndes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I was talking about the Georgia Bridgemen a couple of days this week and reminiscing about the time my kids were in the Bridgman program for 8 straight years across 2 different kids. And we went to all the competitions, even though the off-season and winter guard competitions. So we were that family. We just follow the band everywhere. And so there was a time there for about 4 years or so that the Bridgmen did not win a grand championship. And they typically have 2 competitions, marching competitions every season. And so there was like a 4, maybe 5-year period, can't remember for sure, that they didn't have a grand championship. And so it was good to see them in the last, year or so, maybe the last couple of years, them get back to their winning ways. So yeah. So best of luck to the Georgia Bridgemen as they travel over to Alabama this weekend to take on another marching competition. So best of luck and safety in their travels as well. So anyway, let's get back to high school football. Nathan says usually 2, but this is the first one this year. That's right. They were scheduled to go up to my alma mater because, Berrien County has a new band director that came from Lowndes, was an assistant director at Lowndes, and became the new band director at Berrien County. I do wish that he would make a couple of tweaks to that program up at Berrien, especially during football games. And I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's kind of a pet peeve of mine that kind of some of these smaller programs like a Berrien's not the only one, but they're my alma mater, so I'm going to talk about it. So they have a habit of taking the third quarter off, and I understand why they do it. Band kids need to eat and that kind of stuff. But I kind of like the way the Bridgemen do it, right? They feed the kids, make sure they get the water while they're in the stands, that kind of stuff. Because I like the way John Bowman does this. And when the band is there during a football game, the band is kind of that 12th man, big time cheerleader, big time fan support system, right? And I think when a band takes the third quarter off, the entire third quarter off, I think it does hinder the progress of the football team. Just a personal opinion. So I kind of wish that they would make that tweak. And Berrien's, I think, has always done that. And it's really bothered me that my school would do that. But I wish they would make that change. But anyway, all right. So Jason says, so true. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the game last week and the stats. Yeah, it seems like had a lot of conversation about the team in general over this past week since last Friday night. And one of the hot topics was, Larry, do you think the defense is playing better? Because that's been your bugaboo all year long, even against Colquitt County. The offense did great, but the defense kind of struggled. So what about Tiff County? Does it look like the defense is starting to come around? The answer is yes and yes. So that's good news, right? Now, it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue that trend of getting better and better and better every week. Now, what I saw last week was they did a much better job of controlling the run. Some people would argue that Tiff County is just not a very strong team, but I beg to differ because they've played a lot of teams very closely, including Richmond Hill the week before, just barely losing that game 21-17. So Littleton may be jump-starting that Blue Devil program. Right now, I would say they're probably a run-heavy team. So for our Lowndes guys to go up there and control their running game, to me, was a major step forward. Can they continue that against the better teams like a Camden, like a Valdosta, like a run-based heavy Richmond Hill that basically runs a single wing offense? and you know what you're going to get. It's mostly they're going to pound it at you all night long and force you to stop their run. So they took a major step forward Friday night against Tift County, in my opinion. Anyway, we're going to see if that continues. Tierra says, I just think that Colquitt's running back had some unreal speed. You're right, Tierra. I can't remember was it Jay Lamar? Jacob Lamar? Something. I can't remember the running back's name over there. I think his last name was Lamar. But, there's a reason why he got an offer from the University of Georgia. Special kind of talent at running back. Georgia has been known as running back U. So for a running back to get an offer from the Georgia Bulldogs, you got to think they're a special talent. And so, Tierra, to your point, their running back not just had speed, but he had power. He could run through tackles. And surprisingly, for a bigger back, he was very shifty as well. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. So had a tough time containing that guy. But you know what? If we're going to make a run deep into the playoffs, we're going to face other running backs that are just as talented as well. So we got to get used to and get better at fundamental tackling. Saw a lot of arm tackling that night. That was a couple of weeks ago, coming off of the major hurricane. So that could have had a big part to do with it. But we got to make sure that we are fundamentally sound every single week on defense, because we don't have the depth, the athletic depth, if you will, on defense to overwhelm an opposing offense with just our athleticism. So we have to be fundamentally sound, right? We don't have a 300-pound nose tackle to control the center of the line of scrimmage. So our nose tackle's got to be fundamentally sound. We've got some pretty good size at defensive tackles, but they're not behemoths like they're going to face across from their offensive line counterparts. So they have to be fundamentally sound. You get my point. Whether it's 3 linebackers or we line up in a heavy 5 linebacker package, we got to be fundamentally sound in our tackling, our foot placement, our reads, everything. We cannot afford to make mistakes because we see offenses exploit those mistakes. And that's the obvious, right? I'm stating the obvious. Let's talk about some stats. Now, that game against Tift County, we allowed, Tift County, let's go to our offense first. Okay, so against Tift County, our passing attack, not as productive against Tift County as other programs this year. I was kind of surprised that we didn't throw the ball more. Maybe it was because the field conditions were slick, the ball was going to get wet. For whatever reason, we didn't throw it very much. Maybe it was because we just didn't have to. I don't know. Didn't quite understand the game plan at some points during the game, but I'm not the coach, so that's not my say. So, the week before, we threw it 27 times. Against Tift County, we threw it 13. Maybe it was because we didn't have to. I don't know. But we were 6 of 13 passes. That completion percent, however, went down to 46%. And that was the thing that caught my attention. It wasn't our most proficient night for passing the ball, right? But we were 6 of 13 for 90 yards. Okay. Now, in the run game, we were 33 carries for 145 yards. Okay. Now, Wilbur says we had an 80-yard touchdown pass called back. That is true, Wilbur, but it still counts. I understand we had a touchdown pass called back, but it could have been we had a touchdown pass because I think we were caught holding, and that's a major deal, right? So if we don't hold on that, do we get the pass off? We can debate that all night long, but the stats are what they are. I understand your point, but the stats are what they are. So our total offensive production that night was 235 yards. That was surprising. I'll be honest with you. That was really, really surprising because Tift County is not a great world beater yet, right? They're an improving team. Oh, Wilbur says lineman downfield. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Yeah, Wilbur, I kind of remember that play now. I couldn't remember if it was an interior lineman downfield or what, because, you know, when I was looking at the play, I made it because I was taking some shots at the line at the time, and I just did not notice an interior lineman downfield. I did. It could have been. I just didn't notice that. So that was a head scratcher. And we also had another long pass that was uncharacteristically dropped by one of our receivers, right? So to your point, you know, we get both of those passes, and the pass stats look tremendously better, but they are what they are. And even when you add those two potential passes, the completion percent was lower than normal as well. Okay, so rushing the ball, we didn't have the most stellar night rushing the ball. So we basically we did what we had to do to win. You could tell. I was talking to some fans on the way home, and my assessment of that game, my immediate assessment of that game was, you know, we had such an emotional game against Colquitt County last week. I mean, we were sky high for that game, right? You guys would agree with that. We were sky high for that game against Colquitt. And then, you know, some people would describe going into the Tift County game that this would be a classical trap game. Regardless of what your position is on that, it was obvious that we had an emotional letdown from the week before. And that is normal in the course of a high school football season, right? So I'm chalking the offensive production just to as an emotional letdown from that. Okay, I don't think that's going to continue. I'm expecting a major rebound, especially at home tomorrow night against Camden County. Weaver says happens sometimes on an RPO. You're right. You're right. But I just did not notice the interior lineman downfield. Listen, I am sipping on some some Keurig coffee tonight, which I usually do before show, but I just recently switched brands. And I usually go for a generic version or something like that. But I was forced to recently try the McDonald's, and no, they're not a sponsor or anything like that. I'm just telling you about my coffee. So I recently switched to the McDonald's brand of the Keurig K-Cup coffees. And I got to tell you, it's pretty dang good. I really like it. Okay. All right. So we had 235 total yards. Now, we added a little bit more on the punt returns, that kind of stuff, for overall all-purpose yards of 291. Now, let's talk about our opponent that's coming up tomorrow night, and that's Camden County. You know, I was asked just yesterday, what kind of offense does Camden run? Are they run-based, heavy, pass-based, that kind of stuff? They are they're basically a team in transition. You know, when Jeff Herron took over the team again a couple of 3-4 years ago, before he retired at the end of the last season, you know, they'd switched back. Remember, Herron was the head coach several years ago. He retired. No, he went up to North Georgia and took over a team up there, then went to the college ranks. And so Bob Spire, he was the North Gwinnett head coach at the time, basically ran one of these short passing focus spread systems, tried to implement that in Camden County, didn't work as well as he had hoped, right? No. I'm going to back up. Welton Coffee took over right after Jeff Herron, continued the wing tee, won immediately, then kind of fell on hard times. Then he decided to step back as just the athletic director. Bob Spire was hired as the head coach, transitioned to a spread, but it was one of these short passing game focus spreads. Didn't work out very well at Camden. Then he decided to retire. Jeff Herron retakes over the team, comes out of retirement, takes over the team, and returns Camden to a very good team, not just respectability, but to a very good team, right? And so he decides to retire at the end of last season due to some health issues. And then this new coach, Coach Rowland, takes over the Camden program, and he had just gotten through winning a state championship down with a team down in Daytona. I think it was Mainland High School down in Daytona, Florida. So he is transitioning from the wing tee they had run the last several years over to the spread system, and he's got a true spread system. They can run it, they can throw it, short passes, intermediate passes, long passes, that kind of stuff. But it's not proficient yet. Okay, not proficient yet. Right now, they're a pretty balanced team. If you took a look at their stats, I mean, their stats are pretty dang close as far as runs versus passes. So if they could look at, so right now, if you take a look at their passing, they've had 134 passing attempts. Rushing, let's see, what were their rushing attempts? Okay, here it is. Their rushing attempts were 193 carries, but their yards, so that's pretty similar. They're in the same ballpark. And their yards, 1,295 passing yards, 1,237 rushing yards. So they are a very balanced team. Very balanced team. They like to rush it a little bit more than they like to run it as far as the actual number of plays goes. But they haven't been really been outstanding at either one yet. Now, everybody knows about their all-world tight end. Heavily recruited D1 tight end. I think his name is Elias Williams, right? So there's going to be a lot of attention on him. But even with all the attention on him, he is one of their top performers, as you would expect. So in their receiving games, as far as their receivers goes, they've got probably a dozen or so players that have caught the ball this season. But the bulk of their receptions has come from basically two players. That's Elias Williams, and I don't know his first name, but his last name is Green. He's a sophomore. Williams is senior. Number 3 is Green, and those two are basically a two-headed monster when it comes to receivers. Chase, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm good, LG. What's up, Viking Nation?
Listen, man, we've transitioned over to talking about the Camden County Wildcats and what we can expect from these guys. Chase, they're entering this game tomorrow night with basically the same record as we have. They're 6-1 overall. They're 1-1 in the region. They lost a game a couple of weeks ago in that hurricane week to the Valdosta Wildcats. They had to play at 2:00 in the afternoon there at Bazemore Hyder. They lost it convincingly, though. Basically, Valdosta's run game basically had their way with Camden County, right?
Yeah.
And when it came time to Camden's offense, they showed signs of being a really, really good offense, but most of the time they looked like an average offense. Let's talk about their offense against our defense tomorrow night. What do you expect?
You're gonna have to figure out a way to stop that Elias Williams, man. He is a big time weapon. D1, like you said, D1 tight end committed to Georgia, I believe. He's a problem for a lot of defenses.
Yeah.
He's tall. We saw that last year, dude. He was probably head and shoulders above our guys last year.
Yeah.
Now, I do believe if he's on the field and he's lined up, they got him out wide. You're going to have to use one of your bigger threats on defense, like a Jamarcus Parrish, and provide over the top help for Trey Thomas.
Yeah.
That's going to be the only answer. Those two are the only two answers to that question I see on the field.
Yeah. Me too. Now, they do like to run the ball a little bit, slightly more than they like to throw that ball. Now, that has been probably the biggest question about our defense throughout the season. Is our back end looks to be pretty proficient in covering passes, that kind of stuff, and we've been concerned with our front about stopping the rush. Do you see us getting better as time went on? I gave my opinion on last week's game against Tift County. I saw us taking a step forward with our rush defense. What's your take on our rush defense?
Well, I did notice early on in the Tift County game, they gashed us. They hit us with some pretty decent runs early on in the first quarter, and we made adjustments pre-halftime. We made adjustments really fast on that defense going into the second quarter, uh, which is a testament to the coaching staff as well. But
Sure.
to be able to make adjustments on a game plan, middle of the first half, and it actually stick and work.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a good call by Adam Carter and Coach Anders. Um, you know, they're getting better. They're attacking downhill. I really like what I see out of number 95. I believe his last name's Hundley.
Oh yeah, me too, man.
Dude, he is a monster. Uh, he can turn it on and off like a light switch, man, which is scary at high school level.
Yeah.
But he's definitely going to have to play one of his better games tomorrow against Camden, just due to the fact of if it's that. I don't know if it's that same quarterback, but if it's that same quarterback, he's got some scramble ability to him. So outside containment and forcing him back up inside where you got some help is going to be key.
Yeah, you're talking about Montel Hundley, number 95. He's really turning himself into a very good pass rusher.
Yes, he can get
You know,
after you.
he's got just enough size to make a difference. Give him pushback against offensive tackles because usually he's outsized, right? But he's got a lot of strength, upper body strength. He's got a lot of quickness as well, he reminds me a lot of Thomas Davis. He really is. And Thomas really specialized in wreaking havoc on opposing passing games.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see him maybe play the rush a little bit better. I think he's that front three. I think they're getting a lot better playing the rush. But man, when those three start to put those two components together, they're going to be really, really good come playoff time.
Yeah, and I did notice, and I pointed this out, I believe Friday night to you, how well that secondary is communicating.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah,
They're talking, especially Trey Thomas. Trey seems to be the him and Lorenzo Munitin and Jamarcus Parrish seem to be
yeah,
the three-headed monster in the back half of that defense is really talking and really helping the corners out, really communicating with linebackers, and even as far as communication with the defensive line whenever they're coming off a blitz or they're going to twist or whatever, it seems to be some good communication up front too. They get better every week. So look, I just number 95 impresses me at least 5 or 6 plays every week, man. He's just, man, he puts his head down, pins his ears back, and he's coming. And
yeah. Another one that's very impressive on that defensive line is number 52. What's his Malik? Is it Malik Reddick? I think that's right. But man, when he decides to pin his ears back in a passing situation, he can come in a hurry. He's got a lot of quickness going around that offensive line. I mean, that offensive tackle.
yeah, he does. He does. He's got a really explosive first step.
Yeah, absolutely. That was another guy that really impressed me. I did not realize he was as fast as he showed Friday night. I think it was KJ Massey. After that field goal was blocked and he picked it up and took off,
He was gone.
he was gone.
He was gone.
Man.
He said the street lights was fixing to come on, and Mama told him he had to be home before the street lights come on. That boy was gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Candace Marie is praising number 13, Ethan Jackson, as well, holding his side down. Absolutely. Let's brag on all these players.
He has. Ethan Jackson's been doing an amazing job. Now, what I did not know is that is the same kid last year that made that unbelievable, spectacular catch.
Yeah.
At the front of the south end zone on the visitor side of Martin Stadium. How he caught that ball is still amazing to me.
Yeah.
So we know he's got some hands, and now he's playing corner.
That's right.
So
So David Barringer says our O was inconsistent against Tifton's D. Our D is flexing a bit more, but still, I don't say, but still on the defense. I don't understand what he meant by that last part. But David, I chalk that up to just as an emotional letdown from the week before. I think the offense did play a little bit below their capability against Tiff County. I think that was just an emotional letdown, and you're going to see that rise back up against Camden because I think these players are locked in now because they know they have a shot at winning the region title. I think a lot of people assumed that we were out of the hunt when we lost to Colquitt County over there by 3, but we are still in this thing. We still have a shot at winning this title. So I think these players are locked in on that, and you're going to see tomorrow night a return to a very high emotional level. Because listen, let's be honest. Football is, if anything else, it's a very physical game, but it's a very emotional game as well. And when you can sustain physicality along with emotion for 4 straight quarters, you got a team that's hard to beat. Right? What's your take on that?
It's twofold. The man who can keep his emotions, his wits about him to be able to safely function,
Yeah.
that's the man that wins.
Well, you're talking about composure.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart talks about that.
Yeah. It's one thing to be locked in and it's one thing to be emotional, but you got to also be focused.
Sure.
Be composed. You got to make sure you make the right play. You're locked in. You're where you're supposed to be. You're when the coaches call you, you're the first one there. Now, I will say our team has gotten tremendously better in that department.
Yeah.
And their coachability has gotten way better.
Yeah.
But I expect them to come out tomorrow night, returning home, coming off a 1-1. We'll call it a what they call it, a road trip.
Yeah.
So, they're going to be locked in. They're going to be fired up under the lights again at Martin Stadium. And, let's face it, man, we got the best stadium in South Georgia. I mean,
yeah,
hands down. And them boys love to play there.
That's right.
And they show out every chance they get at home.
Listen,
I'm all about the celebrations. I'm all about the fandom, or the fandemonium, we'll call it. I'm all about the pageantry, the smoke, the running through the banners, the concrete crazies in the student section with their smoke that they throw up every game. I'm all for it, man. And I think it's great for the kids. I think it's great for the team. I think it gets them locked in, man.
Me too, as long as we win. Because this stuff kind of looks foolish when we don't win. So listen, I got to address a Ohio State Buckeye heckler that's in the comment section. I'm going to call him out. He knows who I'm about to talk about. My good friend, David Behringer. He's calling out Kirby Smart, my head coach at the David. Make sure you hear this.
Hold on.
My head coach at the University of Georgia.
Hang on, because I can help you with that, Larry. And I ain't a Kirby Smart fan. I ain't a Georgia fan, but I will tell you this. Kirby coached a lot of years up under Nick Saban.
Sure.
And I've seen Saban on national TV chew his coaches. I'm talking about, man, looked like his head was on fire and he was about to blow a blood vessel. That's what Kirby was doing. Kirby was chewing a coach out or yelling at a coach or yelling at a player. Listen, he ain't lost his composure.
What David's referring to is that viral clip that appeared to show that Kirby shoved the quarterback from Mississippi State, and technically he did, but he was asked about that, and basically it's true, because if you go back and look at the video, he wasn't locked in on that quarterback. He was going to shove whoever was in his way. His explanation was he was trying to get Glenn Schumann, his defensive coordinator's attention. And the way Kirby gets an assistant coach's attention, he basically screams at him, right? And he was fired up at Glenn Schumann, was seeking him out, and he was headed that way. And this Mississippi State quarterback just happened to be in the way, and he shoved whoever was in his way. He was going to get out of the way so he could get to Glenn Schumann. So that's why.
I agree. And I keep referring to coachability. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is, I think it was in the Kale game.
Yeah.
We were up a substantial amount at one point against Kale. Uh, and I believe it was either our special teams or our defense or something made a bonehead, it was just a bonehead mistake, being out of position or didn't understand the call or something.
Sure.
And, most kids would have been like, we're up so far, it don't even matter. That kid knew he messed up. That kid knew he missed an assignment. And when he went to come off the sidelines, Adam Carter and his staff was right there, and he was coaching him up. He was getting on to him. He was asking him what he saw, what he didn't understand, blah blah blah. And the kid was locked in, eyes on his coach, and he was listening.
Yeah.
He was hearing all of it. That's the coachability that we talk about as coaches when these kids get older. Be coachable.
Right.
Don't shut your coach out just because you're winning. That's what I'm seeing from these guys. They're not shutting their coaches out just because they're up big. They're still taking the coaching. They're still taking the butt chewings. They're still taking I was out of position. So I got it, coach. I know what I did wrong. I'll fix it on the next one.
That's right.
And that's a testament also not only to this coaching staff, but to the buy-in of these kids.
Mhm.
That bought in Adam Carter and his staff. And like Candace said, they are having fun. They are loving playing this game again. And I agree. It's refreshing to see.
It is. It really is. And I enjoy it as well. I mean, I love it. I really do. I just don't think it comes across very good if we start losing. That's all I'm trying to say. Because it's just not as fun when you lose. That's all.
Well,
Okay.
from where we were at last year to where we're at right this second, I'll take it
Good point,
all
man.
day. All
Good
day.
point. Yep. All right. So they've got a two-headed monster in at the receiving core, Elias Williams, and let me just go ahead and look up because it's bugging me that I don't know what
Said
that
his
kid's
last
name.
name was Green.
Yeah, Sean Green, number 3, Sean Green. Okay, so he's a wide receiver, sophomore wide receiver. So we'll have to deal with him for the next couple of years. Their quarterback is not bad. I mean, he's kind of a big guy. So you can see with it's kind of interesting to see the progress and the development of these first year programs like Camden County and Tiff County, and they're both progressing basically at similar levels.
Yeah.
Right. Tiff County has a lot more work to do than Camden County
Offensive.
offensively.
Their defense is pretty stout.
Now, let's talk about Camden's They run a weird looking defense. I had to watch a lot of games on NFHS, a lot of plays, and they ran a defense over and over and over again. You're going to love this. They had 3 down linemen as well. Sometimes they'd walk up a linebacker. Sometimes they'd walk up 2 linebackers like we do, but they had a middle linebacker. And then they had what looked like a kind of what University of Michigan had in Michael Barrett, kind of this Viper hybrid safety linebacker guy that would come up and not join the linebacker ranks, but he would basically stand 2 to 3 yards behind the middle linebacker, kind of offset to his side a little bit. So you got one linebacker solely in the middle. You got 2 outside linebackers on the outside. Sometimes they'd walk up to the line of scrimmage. And then you got this Viper type of position that was lined up 2 to 3 yards behind the middle linebacker. And I was thinking, I don't think I've ever seen this scheme before. What is this?
I don't know. I've never
But
seen
anyway,
like it. I've never seen anything like what you're describing. Let's put it like that.
yeah. And so when this Viper would come up on a lot of different plays, he would be communicating through hand gestures, things like that, to the middle linebacker, I guess to, call assignments or something. I couldn't quite figure out what they were trying to run on defense. Right now, Valdosta exposed them big time with their running game. Camden County's defense was so out of position about 75 or 80% of calls. There was even if they played their very best, they were so out of position that Todd Robinson would basically just run around them. Even in passing plays, he would basically take a look for 2 seconds and then take off around one of the ends. And there was nobody around him. Nobody. So I hope they run that defense against us, especially against our passing attack. I really hope they stay in that formation, but we'll see.
Yeah. If they're running zone on the back end, I mean, that'd be the Waffle House big unit slash show all night long.
That's right. That's right.
So pocket.
Sometimes it's one of these, since the head coach came from a Florida league, and presumably he brought some of his guys. Maybe he brought, I don't know any of their assistants. I'm just spitballing, guessing here. Maybe he brought a Florida-based defensive coordinator, and they run these types of defense down there. I'm not exactly sure what they're trying to do on defense. But we're going to see tomorrow night, live and in person.
Yeah.
All right. So given that, what do you think the outcome? Well, I'm going to assume that the outcome is going to be in Lowndes' favor. How close do you think this game is going to be?
28-10 Lowndes.
28-10 Lowndes. Okay. So you think that Lowndes is going to jump on them early and keep their foot on the gas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I'm right there with you with this provision. I don't think Lowndes is going to jump on them early. I think that's going to come maybe midway through the second quarter. Right. So I think Lowndes is going to start pulling away with about 3 to 4 minutes left in the first half, and then continue to pull away in the second half. That's my read on this game. Could be wrong, but I'm expecting at least a 14-point win.
Yeah, I think we come out with a bang, man. I think these boys want to make a little noise on the return, and they want to come out and just light it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The wild card to me is their big tight end. Size-wise, I don't think we have anyone on the back end that matches him with his size, I don't think.
No, not with his true size, but if you, like I said before, if you use guys like Jamarcus Parrish and Trey Thomas,
yeah,
one Trey can provide over the top help. All right, Jamarcus is big enough and has enough size to chip him and slow him down. So you can disrupt a timing route real easy on a big guy like that. You just gotta be willing to smack him. And I mean, that's just going to be the thing. They're just going to have to contain him. Don't get sucked into the backfield on a play action, because that's what they're looking for.
Absolutely. Dave Behringer is predicting Lowndes 24-10. Let's see. Somebody had an interesting question. I think it was, who was it? David Griffith. He says, how big is Camden's offensive and defensive line? David, they are a typical Camden County front. They got big dudes. Now, we played against big dudes before, but I think what's going to slow Camden down is they're not quite adjusted to their offensive and defensive schemes quite yet. So that allows a team that's an opposing team that is athletic in nature to exploit that, right? Mm-hmm. So I think the quickness of Lowndes' front 4 or 5 is going to be able to take advantage of Camden's run game tomorrow night. But we'll see. Now, Errol Fender is expecting a big-time scoring game. He says Lowndes 38, Camden 28. I hope it doesn't. Now, the thing that somebody talked about special teams a while ago, and we're getting better in the special teams department.
Yeah.
Right. But something that Camden County can do as well is some of their specialty, especially their kick return. Their kick return team is very, very good. One of the scores they had against Valdosta was a kickback return for a touchdown.
All right, Aiden. Andrew, boy, we're going to need every one of them kickoffs out the back of the end zone.
Absolutely. Their return guys have so much speed that if you give them a crease, we're not going to catch them. We're just not. So you got to kick them out, or you have to provide great coverage. You got to stay in your lanes, all that fundamental stuff, right? So you got 2 wild cards that Camden brings to the table. Their special teams, especially their kick return team, and their all-world D1 tight end, which many times they will line him up, kind of like a shoot. What was the all-world tight end for Georgia a couple of years ago? Oh, my sometimers is kicking in. But anyway, they like to line him up as a wide receiver sometimes as well, right? So you got to, those are a couple of wild cards that you have to keep in mind. It's going to be interesting to see if Lowndes plays zone when he lines up outside, or if they double him. I don't know if we've got the courage to play him straight up man. I don't know how that's going to turn out. I think we're going to try it early on and see how it goes.
Jamarcus has got more than enough speed. Jamarcus Parrish got more than enough speed to keep up with.
Probably so. I don't doubt that at all. But he's a 5-star D1 for a reason.
Yeah, but I don't think he's flashy fast.
No, he's not. He's not super speedy at all.
Yeah,
he is a typical tight end.
Yeah,
you know, he doesn't have great speed, but he's got long strides. Yeah. He's a very strong guy. So tackling him is going to be paramount. When they throw to him a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you can time it up a couple of times and smack him with the ball just as the ball's getting there.
Yeah.
Especially across the middle, you develop alligator arms.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Tierra Battle says Brock Bowers. Gary West is actually spot on when he says Darnell. He reminds me more of Darnell Washington than a Brock Bowers, because he doesn't have that flashy speed that Brock Bowers had, but he had the size, hands, route running, and blocking capability of a Darnell Washington. And he was big number 0 for Georgia a few years ago, if y'all remember that guy. Yeah, Gary says he was a tight end that can be an offensive lineman as well, right? So basically, Elias Williams basically gives you the option of having body size, another offensive tackle lined up against your offense, next to your offensive tackle. So when he lines in tight as a traditional tight end, you got to be thinking that they're going to come that way with their rush game. That's what I would think anyway. Very, very strong run blocker.
He's long. He's lengthy. He's very, very strong. He's got great footwork.
He's highly recruited for a reason.
He is highly recruited. Well, I mean, he can walk in the room and you can go, okay, we get it.
Definitely passes the eye test, right?
Oh yeah, man. He's a monster coming into the stadium. I mean, you look at him, you're like,
yeah. So guys, if you're there early enough to watch the skill teams, guys warm up, throwing up balls, that kind of stuff, you'll spot him immediately. He stands out, right? You'll spot him immediately. Wilbur says, I ain't scared. He says, we got a guy, number 7, that can match up with him. Just don't be surprised. He had played QB. He's talking about, obviously, Jace Johnson. I don't know if you're going to roll that dice and allow Jace to play DB against the.
I'm not rolling that dice.
I'm not either.
Ain't no way. Nope. My defense coordinator come to me on the sideline. Hey, coach, I need to borrow. Have you lost your mind?
Yeah. So good thought. Great thought, Wilbur. I don't know if I would have the courage to roll that dice, you know?
I could. Nah. No, sir. Like I said, I do think, and I do believe in my heart of hearts, that the best matchups for him, no matter what side of the field he's on, needs to be Jamarcus Parrish and Trey Thomas.
That's right.
And absolutely, I mean, Trey Thomas is going to follow him wherever he goes. He's on the field.
Wilbur Pelfrey says, Valdosta did with Robinson. Wilbur, Todd also had an ankle injury last week against Colquitt County. So you got to be careful about, especially the quarterback position, because we all recognize that's probably the number 1 position on the field in modern day football, right? And so, listen, man, I get it, because you want your best athlete out there. But I don't know if Jace is the guy to go up against him especially this early in his career. So anyway, but one of the reasons you guys love this show is we allow everybody to disagree if you want to.
I agree with Candace. No, we good.
Let our quarterback be the quarterback.
We're
Absolutely.
gonna let Juice Juju. How about that?
Hey, listen. I'm not going. I don't know if Jalen Carter is watching tonight, so I'm going to say something about his mom that he may not like. But Candace is more right than she's wrong. So I would listen to her, Wilbur, when it comes to this idea of using Jace as a DB.
I've known Miss Candace a long time, and even when she's wrong, you just say yes, ma'am, nod your head, and you keep moving.
Oh man! All right. And Candace does make some pretty funny posts on her personal Facebook as well.
Man.
I always enjoy. Very entertained when I read Candace's post.
Oh man, she had me laughing. Oh man.
So, all right. So we're gonna this is gonna quickly turn into the Candace show. So listen, guys, we're gonna end it right there. We're gonna see you tomorrow night in the friendly compounds of the Concrete Palace. Come early, stay late, party with the Bridgemen, and live it up like a Viking. How about that? So as always, may God bless every single one of you, and go Vikings.
Go Vikes.